And now, good Mike Where Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Is that how it goes? Is that how the song goes? Because Houston, we might have a problem. Also, I think Houston is currently tied with the Ravens at halftime right now in the NFL playoffs. Yikes. How's it going, guys? Welcome. Good to see you. Happy Saturday. Welcome to your Winged Eagle podcast for January the 20th, 2024. Wow, as I look at that date, we are just 3 days away from the 40-year anniversary of the birth of Hulkamania. How crazy is that? But it is late January. We are a week away from the Royal Rumble, and we got some catastrophic, potentially news yesterday as it relates to Seth Rollins. That's what we're going to unpack here today in terms of his injury, what he may or may not say on Monday, and if we think he's able to make it to WrestleMania, and if he is, what they would do, and if he can't, what they might do. Basically, just kind of laying out a lot of scenarios for what might be a very, very unfortunate injury for Seth Rollins, who did in fact get injured on Monday night in his match with Jinder Mahal. We were up here for a midweek podcast on Tuesday, and we talked about that injury. WWE, or it was reported that WWE would learn more on Wednesday or Thursday, and yesterday was when we learned what the injury is and what exactly is wrong with Seth's knee. Turns out it's pretty much the same injury he had back in 2017 that he suffered around the same time, and he did make WrestleMania that year. So we're going to talk about Seth, what he's going to say on Monday. Like I said, 1 week from today is the Royal Rumble. This week's WWE shows are the go-home editions of Raw and SmackDown heading into the Royal Rumble, and there's already a lot to unpack and discuss as it relates to the Royal Rumble anyway. And now that we have the Seth Rollins news potentially maybe changing the landscape of WrestleMania, because as we'll lay out here in a little while, hypothetically, if Seth cannot make the show, you would think that that's going to drastically change a lot of what they do. So let's keep our fingers crossed that his injury does not really screw up this year's WrestleMania, because we already have enough confusion with The Rock and everything going on there. CM Punk just came back. Cody trying to finish his story. There's a lot happening between now and WrestleMania, and Seth's injury just adds another element of uncertainty to what is hopefully going to be a really fun and awesome WrestleMania season that is really kicked off now and really begins this coming Saturday, next Saturday at the Royal Rumble. So yeah, we're going to talk about Seth's injury today. That's going to be top priority. We're also going to talk about the other huge news. Had we not learned about Seth's injury, I think the top story this week would be Kazuchika Okada leaving New Japan. He's leaving Okada after all these years, 2007. I think he's been there since, and leaving, and that is huge because where Okada winds up is another big topic of debate, speculation, and fun, and we might actually see this man work a WrestleMania match in February, which is just crazy to think about. So we're going to talk about Okada's New Japan departure that's coming up at the end of the month. We're going to talk about Seth Rollins. We're going to talk about a couple of other news tidbits as well. And I want to talk about this week's Dynamite and last night's SmackDown, although we're only going to talk about the main points. Primarily on Dynamite, the amazing main event between Hook and Samoa Joe I really liked. We'll talk about some of the other big moments on Dynamite, like the sit-down interview with the Young Bucks and getting a look at what these new characters of theirs is going to look like and is going to be, and these new personas. And so far, I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not I think it's going to work, but I do commend them on doing a terrific job on their appearances. If their job is to look like the two biggest douchebags walking planet Earth, they have nailed it. So we will talk about the Bucks, the very heartwarming tribute to Jay Brisco, and a couple of other tidbits from Dynamite as well. Also, we'll talk about last night's SmackDown and Rampage. SmackDown specifically, we got that contract signed for the Royal Rumble, and we also saw Logan Paul on the show. So Roman and Logan, both of these guys holding these belts hostage, both appeared on SmackDown last night. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we will preview the Royal Rumble and what the card is looking like, and I will let you guys know what to expect from me this week. So that's kind of what's on the menu here today. Kind of a casual podcast because we were up midweek, so it's not like I have a ton of stuff to catch up on, but what we do have to discuss today is pretty significant and pretty important. So we will get into it. Hopefully you guys are having a great Saturday. Welcome to the show. Do me a favor. You guys know what to do. Thumbs up button. Please give that thing a smash. And please subscribe if you are not a subscriber. Would love for you to stick around with us because we do lots of fun stuff here on this channel. I'm going to cruise to the chat, say hello to everybody, and then I will let you guys know what is going on the channel this week. And just to give you a head start before I start laying it all out, if you check my channel, I've got links out the ass all the way through next Saturday's Royal Rumble watch party and review. We're going to watch that whole damn thing together. So I've got tomorrow's watch along, Monday's Raw review, predictions, and the watch party links are all up, and we'll get into those in just a second. But let me say hello to everybody that is here in the chat. Let's hit some of these channel members, like my boy Amato. Good to see you, my friend. Another 10-hour day for you. Man, that sucks. Working 10 hours and you just got there. Roman, say Rock beats Roman and he comes out on Raw after Mania. Judgment Day beats him down and Priest cashes in. Then he works Cody. You mean like after WrestleMania? Maybe. I still am firmly of the belief that Cody's story should not be derailed. I think his story should be to beat Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania on night 2. How they get to that has been highly discussed. We've talked about every single different possibility under the sun. And now, as I'm going to talk about in a minute, with Seth's injury, let's just say, hypothetically, Seth can't work Rumble, or I'm sorry, isn't going to work Mania. Doctors have just determined that injury's too severe. There's no way you're going to be ready. I think that really changes how they're going to drive Cody to the end of that story. His path might change if Seth can't work, and that's what we'll get into. But I'm still firmly of the belief, Amato, that Cody needs to finish his story. I'm going to do these shout-outs first, then we'll hit the super chats. Jay Lambo, another channel member in here as well. Red Raven Rucker, Isaac, Sonic Plays, Ben Espinoza, Mike Rouse, Chris Robinson, Titanium Titan. Those are some of the members I see right now. Good to see Rodrigo as well. Nicola. Do I think Damian Priest could cash in on Monday? We're going to talk about that, Nicola. Jordan Smith, Denny Downbad, just in time, 211. Good to see you. Austin Olson. Who else is here? We have Stephen Harris, Vash Starwin, Mark Simpson, Gilbert, Big J, Tony, David Brown. Good to see you as well. Source Jedi. We have Jay Boba, 28, in here early, dropping $10 in. Thanks, man. Hey, Greg, although going to AEW will be the smoothest transition for Okada, I strongly believe wrestling at WrestleMania is a personal goal for Okada. I don't even think you have to believe that. I believe he said that. So it's not really a belief. I think that's a fact. And plus, the treatment of Nakamura and Asuka helps. Yeah, we're going to talk about Okada a lot. One of the things I saw from people on both sides of the fence is that, WWE, they take care of Okada. Look at what they've done with people in the past. People have to understand it's not Vince's show anymore. And especially with Nakamura and Asuka, the treatment they've gotten the last year or so should be pretty attractive to somebody like Okada. And I feel I would have been nervous as hell and wouldn't have wanted Okada anywhere near the WWE under Vince McMahon. Under Triple H, it's a whole different story, because if Vince was still in charge, I would just want Okada to go to AEW where he's safe. But with Vince gone and Triple H being in charge now, and Triple H having a lot more respect and understanding for international stars and people outside of the WWE who have made big careers for themselves, he is not going to dress up Okada in a fucking clown suit and tell him to go out in the ring. You know what I mean? Like, he's just not going to do that. And excuse me, Okada, with already having some friends in WWE, they're probably texting him, get your ass over here, man. It's going to be a fucking trip if you come in. And with Will Ospreay, I thought and felt that going to AEW was the best place for him. Like, as a fan, I would prefer, for some reason, just to see Will Ospreay in AEW right now. I just think that's better. In the future, the dude's like, 32, 33 years old. 5 years from now, come to the WWE, have a big WrestleMania match against, I don't know, whoever the top guy is at the time. I'm all for it. But right now, I feel like Ospreay in AEW is better. He's better there. That's where I would prefer to see him as a fan. Okada, it's the opposite. Okada, I really want to see in the WWE. I think he'd be great there. I think Triple H would present him like a major star. You think of some of the matches he could have in that company, like Okada versus insert any WWE top star name would be incredible. Remember when AJ Styles debuted in the Rumble back in 2016? Like, what if this year AJ's in the ring by himself? And out comes Okada. Holy shit. Although I think he can't work the Rumble. His contract wouldn't technically be up yet unless, New Japan does for him what they did for Ospreay and just let him, just go work or whatever. But we will see. We're going to talk more about Okada in just a little bit and what he might do in either company, and specifically if he does come into WWE. But yeah, that pretty much does it for the shout outs. Good to see Henry Martin and Max Pokebra chiming in, and the new one all saying hello as I've been talking here. Good to see everybody. Happy Saturday to ya. Here is what is on tap for this week. I have 5 links, including this one, up on the channel right now. Tomorrow's classic watch-along, we're going to be finishing off the 1990s. The last Royal Rumble of the 90s that we have not watched is Royal Rumble 1990, and we're doing that one tomorrow. Link is already up on the channel, so tomorrow, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, we will be watching that. I do know we will be going head-to-head with some playoff football, unfortunately. But we are going to be watching that tomorrow night. And then the following week is Championship Sunday, which is the AFC and NFC Championship games. That would be the day after the Royal Rumble, next Sunday on the 28th. So most likely, I'm going to plan to not do a classic watch-along that night. We're going to be up here for a lot of hours together on Saturday for the Royal Rumble. And if the Lions make it to the win tomorrow, I should say, and make it to the NFC title game, I'm probably going to want to watch that. And my sister and brother-in-law, they're big Chiefs fans. So if the Chiefs win tomorrow and the Lions win tomorrow, that means they're both in the conference title games the following week. And I think I'm going to be hanging out with family watching football that day. But we're going to wait and see. I'm not going to make any official announcement on the 28th watch-along until I see what happens in these football games tomorrow. But tomorrow, we are going to be going head-to-head with football. We will have the game up on the screen there as we watch Hogan and the Warrior clash for the first time in a showdown that really made 13-year-old Greg crap his pants, something terrible. It was just a wild, wild time back in the day. So we're going to be traveling back, 34 years? Jesus Christ, I'm old. 34 years back in time tomorrow. Join us for the Royal Rumble 1990. Also, I already have our link up for Monday night. I've missed the last 2 Monday Night Raw reviews due to family obligations. This week, we're going to be up here reviewing Raw for sure because Seth Rollins is set to be on the show and he's going to address his injury and hopefully let us all know what his plans are going to be. So the link to our Raw review is already up. On Friday, 6 days from now, this coming Friday, next week, prior to SmackDown. This is prior to SmackDown. We're going to be going live at the same time we are now, 3 p.m., 6 Eastern. But on Friday, it's going to be a Friday Winged Eagle. We're going to review Dynamite, any wrestling news, that's happening and the haps, so to speak. And we're going to predict the Royal Rumble next Friday before SmackDown airs. Then 1 week from today is going to be our big Royal Rumble watch party about 15 minutes before the main show starts. Not the kickoff, but the main show. We will be up here live to watch the entire Rumble together, and we will stick around for a review. So that is what's on tap. And like I said, next week's watch along is still kind of up in the air, but the post-Rumble Raw, we will definitely be here for a review. And a lot of these links, like I said, are already up on the channel, so just give that a look, save them for later, give them a preemptive like, and stick them in your pocket. That way they're ready for you when it's time to watch. That's done. That's it for the pleasantries, the schedule, all that nonsense. You guys have done your likes and your subscribes and all that bullshit. I think it's time to talk about Mr. Seth Rollins. So, as we know, this past Monday on Raw was the WWE title match between Seth Rollins and Jinder Mahal. And Seth appeared to injure his knee, and it didn't appear like he was selling or anything like that because Jinder really wasn't working the knee. I think it happened on a moonsault, and he kind of came up a little gimpy. And fans noticed that he was limping around after the show went off the air. There was a lot of rumblings on social media from people in the arena that said he was helped to the back and limping around, and doctors had to assist him and whatnot. And the following day, I think it was FightFul that had reported that WWE expects to know more about his injury on Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday or Thursday came and went, and we didn't hear anything until yesterday, where it was revealed that Seth Rollins sustained a torn MCL. Now, this is a write-up from FightFul Select yesterday. Here's what they had to say. FightFul Select learned that as of Monday night, Rollins told people backstage that he didn't think he'd sustained an ACL tear. And there is a big difference there between MCL and ACL. One WWE higher-up we spoke to said, considering he's power-bombed a 300-pound man on a torn ACL, we think he understands what that might feel like. Unfortunately, the word in WWE and sources near Rollins are that he sustained a torn MCL and a partially torn meniscus. However, it is not known as of yet if he'll require surgery, though the hope is that he can avoid it. We also aren't sure how WWE will play things out on television or if the injury will be downplayed or embellished. Rollins has a history of knee problems and has worked through many of them in the past. Several in WWE put over Rollins' toughness and resolve throughout the match and the immediate aftermath. So Rollins sounds like he's found himself in a very similar situation that he was in prior to WrestleMania 33, where he faced Triple H, right? And there was, and he had missed 32, right? He had missed 32 because I think he did tear his ACL and he was gone for a long time, and he missed WrestleMania 32. Then he's ready to come back at WrestleMania 33, this big triumphant return for his Triple H, and he gets hurt again. And there was some worry that he could miss his second straight WrestleMania. And I remember back then how he really seemed determined to not miss that show at any cost. And, with a knee, this is something that you have to put weight on and walk on. It's not like Cody's injury where the pec, where, provided he could handle the pain, he could pretty much work through that. A knee is a whole different story. If you can't walk, then you can't compete in a match. We just saw that debacle that Kota Ibushi had just a couple of weeks ago, and that was really difficult to watch. And Seth Rollins isn't just going to be able to compete if his knee is, just not functioning. However, with an MCL tear, I'm no doctor or orthopedic surgeon or anything like that, but these are shorter recovery times. These are weeks, not months, depending on your health and your age and your, physical, everything going on with you physically, how long your recovery could be. And with Seth, we just really don't know. I mean, according to the reports, they weren't even sure if he's going to need surgery or not. So this might be a thing where they need to sit on it and wait and see how he progresses, give it a week and see. I don't know. Maybe they're still determining this, or maybe they've already determined it. Maybe they said, hey, with some rehab and rest, you're going to be fine, but you probably can't work until Mania. And I think that's really our best case scenario at this point. Now, one good thing about all of this is that it was appearing that Seth Rollins just wasn't going to be booked for the Rumble anyway. We kept talking about this all month long. What is Seth going to do at the Rumble? What is Seth going to do at the Rumble? It took me all the way until last week to realize that, he might not do anything. And that's when I started pitching the ideas of Seth kind of observing the show from the skybox. And when Punk wins the Rumble, instead of pointing to the Mania sign, he can point to Seth Rollins. They can still do all that. So luckily, Rollins, this injury isn't going to cause them to need to change the Royal Rumble because he wasn't booked in any matches. So there's nothing to change there. So for the Rumble, we're pretty much safe unless Seth planned on doing a run-in or something like that. Maybe he was going to appear in the Rumble and eliminate CM Punk. I have no idea. So at least for Rumble purposes, because a lot of people were posting like Rumble posters yesterday online, look, Seth Rollins is not on it. And I'm like, Seth hasn't been on a lot of those. I think the only ones that I remember Seth being on are the early Rumble posters that still had Charlotte on it. But since they fixed that, they replaced Seth with Punk and they put like McIntyre in Charlotte's place or something. So I don't think Seth's absence from any Rumble posters is any evidence at all or to this injury in terms of what they might do, because it looks like Seth probably wasn't going to have a match anyway. So we're safe there. In terms of what he was going to do with the Elimination Chamber, we still don't know that. We still don't know that yet. We're under the assumption that the Elimination Chamber matches were going to be used to determine the other WrestleMania challengers, but that's not a given either. We could see Rhea Ripley or Io or Seth even defend their titles in the chamber, although I don't even think that that's necessary because you probably should use those chambers for the other title matches. So it sounds like really all that we need to be concerned with is WrestleMania. As long as Seth Rollins can make WrestleMania, you would think nothing should be too screwed up, provided he can work WrestleMania. Maybe a little bit maybe they have to change some things that they were going to do in the build. Maybe there were going to be some matches on TV, or maybe even in the Elimination Chamber leading up to Mania that maybe they have to change. But I think if Seth can make Mania, he should be all right. The only problem with that is WrestleMania is still 2.5 months away. And Seth Rollins has been very vocal on TV about how Roman Reigns is the champion that's never there, and Seth is there every week defending the belt and defending the belt hard. So this kind of goes against everything that he's preaching. But then again, an injury is kind of out of his hands. If Seth could get in the ring, he would. So they could probably just frame it like the doctors, I want to defend the title, but the doctors won't let me, that type of thing. So Rollins keeping the title and not having to forfeit it is what I'm hoping the deal is. What I'm hoping is that Seth Rollins is still able to work WrestleMania. It might be a situation where they're like, okay, you can work through this, but after Mania, you're going to need surgery. And if that's the case, that might change the outcome of what they had planned. Because I've been of the belief that when Rollins and Punk meet in the ring for the first time, whenever that is, for the title, not for the title, WrestleMania, Chamber, Raw, Backlash, wherever the fuck that match happens, Rollins wins. He already put Cody over when Cody came in the door and then put him over 3 times. I don't think he does that with Punk. I think he beats CM Punk. I do. So whenever that match is going to happen, that's who I'm putting over is Seth Rollins. But if he's injured and he's going to be missing time after WrestleMania, then maybe you change that. Especially if he's champion, he's going to have to drop the title, and then maybe that changes things. Punk wins the Rumble and beats Seth for the title if Seth is injured. But if Seth is all right and he's fine, then I would like just to see him make it into WrestleMania and WWE do whatever current plan they have for Seth in place. And my belief is that CM Punk should win the Rumble and challenge Seth, and Cody Rhodes should win the Chamber and challenge Roman. We don't know if that's the plan or not. We have no idea because we still got to think about The Rock that's involved in all of this too. We have no idea how he's going to fit in yet. So that's what I'm hoping they still do. I hope that Seth maybe just doesn't wrestle a whole lot or get very physical in the next few weeks, rest up his knee. And, maybe, like they said in the report, maybe even downplay or embellish the injury to work it into the storyline, depending on the severity of it. So there's a lot of different things they can do, and Seth Rollins will address his future this Monday on Raw. Here's what I think is not going to happen. I just don't think Seth Rollins is going to do a full-blown title forfeit. I would not do that if I was WWE. This is the very first champion you've had in the lineage of this thing, and you don't want to have your first champion ever to have to forfeit the title, especially when you have a dude with a briefcase running around there right now. So Seth Rollins coming out on Raw, like let's say, again, you know how I love these hypotheticals. Let's say hypothetically, doctors are determining now. I think it would be a little bit too soon if the docs unless the injury is really bad, if for them to decide now that Seth can't make a match in April, that means the injury has to be pretty bad. Otherwise, it's probably going to be a wait and see or he'll probably be okay type of thing. But if for any reason they've already determined that WrestleMania isn't going to be possible, so they need to pivot and go in a different direction, I wouldn't have Seth relinquish the title. Because I've seen a lot of different scenarios. What if they just put the title on the line in the Royal Rumble? That would solve one issue I'm having with the Rumble, is that the only person that could win it that wouldn't challenge Roman would be Punk, who doesn't like Seth and could challenge Seth. Any other Rumble winner you would think would have to challenge Roman Reigns, and that presents a problem. So if you made the Royal Rumble for Seth's World Heavyweight Championship, then that would solve that problem, and you could still do the Chamber to determine Roman's challenger for WrestleMania. But I don't like that idea. I don't want the belt to be decided in the Rumble. They did that a few years back, 2016, right? When Triple H won it, they did it with Ric Flair. I don't personally want to see that. I'm not saying they're not going to do it, but I just wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that because you have Priest. And if I needed to get the belt off of Rollins because he was injured, I would prefer a cash-in over him forfeiting the title. Like maybe Rollins comes out there to forfeit it, but before he even gets a chance, Damian Priest comes out and cashes in. And, this would have to be based on whether or not Rollins is healthy enough to take a bump. Like if Rollins can take a bump, then I would have Priest come out and cash in on him and win the title. But I still feel like they've got plans for a Priest cash in. A Priest cash in could happen pretty much any time between now and WrestleMania that Seth, is in the ring. I feel like Priest would be cashing in for Seth's before he'd be cashing in for Roman's. But again, you really never know there. They could swerve us and have Priest come out maybe at the Royal Rumble in that Fatal 4-Way just to give us a tease that that's what his intentions are. But if it was up to me and Rollins couldn't make Mania, and they've got to get the belt off of him now, and they got to figure that out in storyline, I would book a cash-in over Seth just forfeiting the title. That's just me. But if Rollins is good to go, then everything should be fine. So another problem here that I worry about with Rollins, if he had to forfeit the title, is what I talked about earlier. That right now, the only, and I've really harped on this, probably to the point where you guys are getting annoyed with me, but I've been adamant that there's no way any Rumble winner would want to challenge for Seth's title unless there's already a pre-existing issue there, like there is or looks to be between Seth Rollins and CM Punk. That's why CM Punk would be the perfect winner for the Royal Rumble, so he can challenge Rollins, and that gives Cody a little bit less of a predictable path to get to Roman Reigns, perhaps having to win the Elimination Chamber or find and fight and claw his way into the chamber, then win it. All that adversity, remember, that everybody wanted so badly last year? I feel like Cody could get that between now and WrestleMania. But if Seth is injured and they take the title off of him for any reason, or let's say Damian Priest cashes in on Monday and now he's the new champion, I can't see the winner of the Royal Rumble challenging him, you know? I can't see the winner of the Royal Rumble challenging Damian Priest, no matter who it is. It feels like whoever would win that Rumble would want Roman, which now means that if Cody is the plan for WrestleMania, you have to have Cody win the Rumble again. And that might not be what they want to do, have Cody go back-to-back in the Rumble. But I feel like if the Rumble winner isn't CM Punk, then it almost has to be Cody, because he's the one that's going to challenge Roman Reigns. The only other option would be The Rock, you know, and maybe they're keeping him quiet. Maybe he comes out at the end of the Royal Rumble. Maybe Rock comes in at number 30, just like Cody came in last year at number 30. What if it's Rock and Cody are the final two or something? And Rock throws Cody over the top rope, or maybe Cody fucking gets screwed and then they do the triple threat. I don't know. I just feel like if Rollins is not champion going into the Royal Rumble on Saturday, then I think the winner of the Royal Rumble changes. I think it changes to Cody. I don't think there's any way to do it other than that. And what I said last week before we knew about Rollins' injury, I said, I don't want Cody to win the Rumble, because with Roman never on TV, Cody's just going to win the Rumble, announce that he's challenging Roman. He's not even on the same brand, and the build is going to have to be really spread out over 7 weeks, and there's not going to be much for Cody to do, except for just having regular-ass matches on Raw, maybe a couple appearances on SmackDown. I'm sure there will be 1 to 3 face-to-face appearances between Cody and Roman during the build, a contract signing, things like that, but that's a lot of time, you know, where if he had a little bit harder of a road and had to go through Elimination Chamber first to get that shot, then it shortens your build time and you can get a lot more done in that short amount of time. So with Cody and Roman, I feel like a long build isn't good, because we already know the story there. They faced last year, and there's no, you know, current storyline issue between them. They're not interacting at all on TV. So the story is just kind of there. Once they come together, there's not really much to tell, or there's really no groundwork to lay. We already know what's going on there. So Cody winning gives us a lot of time to kind of build that, and it might be too much time, to be honest. I feel like Chamber would be more fun and would keep things, you know, moving at a decent pace. But Rollins' injury and him may or may not needing to forfeit the championship really puts all of this up in the air. But I am really keeping my fingers crossed that Seth is going to be able to work WrestleMania, and with some rest and rehab and taking it easy, he should be able to get the match done. I don't want him just to get the match done either. I want him to be healthy. I want him and Punk to be a good match, not one that they have to like fight to get through. And like I said, I also think Seth Rollins should win that match. But if he's injured, maybe he's going to lose it. Where does Priest cash in? Where does the cash in tie in? Because I do feel like one of the first things I said when Punk came back, I said, oh, what would be cool is if you have Punk and Seth in a championship match and Rollins beats Punk, and then immediately after he loses the title to Damian Priest. I've been pitching that ever since Survivor Series. So I still feel like something like that can happen, and it might even be saved until WrestleMania. I'd have no problem with Punk and Rollins main eventing night one for the championship, but Damian Priest leaving as champion. No problem. No problem at all. I think that would be a lot of fun if they did that. But if Rollins gets hurt, then who knows? You could call all sorts of audibles. You could put the belt on McIntyre and have him defend against Sami Zayn at WrestleMania or something. I'd be perfectly fine with that. You could throw Jey Uso in the mix if you wanted. Uso and Zayn both main evented WrestleMania Night 1 last year. Don't forget about our pal, Gunther, who's kind of good and dominant and will probably be making some noise WrestleMania season as well. Brock Lesnar is going to be turning back up. A lot of us feel like Brock and Gunther might be on a collision course, but if Seth were to have to relinquish his title or he's not going to be champion and they have to make some serious creative plans, I think something like this could potentially have a ripple effect through a lot of the storylines because of how it's all connected. So hopefully, like I said, everything's fine and Seth can work WrestleMania, because if not, it's going to make things difficult. And luckily, WWE's so white hot right now. They have so many people at the top. They have so many top stars. They have so many matches, even outside of Punk and Rollins, that are very, very interesting and intriguing. And Punk could just find something else to do. Punk and McIntyre could wind up working a program instead because their promo on Raw was pretty good. And they would survive the Seth injury. Everything would be fine and WrestleMania would still be hugely successful. It's not all riding on the back of Seth or anything, but it just sucks. It's super disappointing as a fan because we've all been really interested in that showdown between Punk and Rollins, and I would really hate to see that canceled unless it was absolutely necessary, which is why I think we're not going to learn anything concrete about Seth's injury. If I had to guess on Monday, Seth would address his injury and probably his determination to work through it, if I had to guess. I can't imagine a scenario where Seth is like, I'm hurt, guys. I know WrestleMania is 2.5 months away, but I can't make it. Here's your belt. I don't feel that. I feel like Seth is at least going to announce his intentions of working through it no matter what, and maybe that's when you get a Damian Priest cash-in. We could very well see a cash-in on Monday night, but if we did, that would be a bummer because that means that Rollins isn't going to be healthy enough. Here's another idea. Let's say that Rollins, the doctors, again, hypothetical, say the doctors say, hey, we're looking at your knee. We think you're going to be okay by WrestleMania. We think that you should be able to work that match, but it's 50-50. It's just 50-50. We're not sure yet. And maybe WWE's like, we can't sit around and wait another month to find out if you can work or not because we want to get our ducks in a row for Mania. So maybe they say, okay, the Punk and Rollins match maybe can still happen, but let's just take the title out of the scenario. So maybe, well, see, that would have to make Punk a heel, though. I'm thinking on Monday, Rollins is out there and he's indicating his desire to work through the injury, and then maybe Punk comes out and attacks him. But Punk's kind of a babyface right now. So Punk coming out and attacking an injured Seth, laying him out with a GTS, and then allowing Priest to come in and cash in on Seth Rollins. Now Priest is champion, and then Rollins can kind of fight his way back to hopefully still be able to work WrestleMania, but work against CM Punk. Maybe Seth would hobble down to the ring at the Royal Rumble and eliminate him from the Rumble. And, we try to get a WrestleMania match out of the two. Maybe you could do that, but I don't think anything I just said there makes a whole lot of sense. I was just kind of thinking out loud. So let's just hope for the best on the Seth Rollins injury and what they could do. And like I said, I'm sure you guys are throwing out a ton of ideas in the chat, and there's a million different ways you could go for both reasons. There's a million different ways they could go if Rollins keeps the belt or if he has to relinquish it. So we will see what happens with Rollins. Fingers crossed, everybody. Let's talk about the other big story. Ooh, before we do that, let me go back here to the chat. And just knock out a couple of hellos coming in from people like our friends. Zach Palgett, what's up, man? Didn't mean to hide Max. I did it by accident driving. Oh, shit. I'll unhide that. I think I can. I don't know. Stop hiding people. There's some other people that got hidden or something too that I've had to fix. So if you're a mod, just don't hide anybody or whatever, unless they're like really big assholes. And don't ever hide any other members either. None of that shit. Isaac, good to see you. Did I hear about the interview that LA Knight and Grayson Waller did, and Grayson told a person off about wrestling being fake? Yeah, they were in Australia. I think they were promoting Elimination Chamber. And Grayson Waller's from there, right? And so they were on some little Good Morning Australia type of sit-down show or whatever, and it had a lot of John Stossel, Dr. D, David Schultz vibes, maybe even a little bit of Vader in Kuwait, where they kind of were, I wouldn't say they were calling wrestling fake or anything, but they were definitely, I don't know, making a couple of jokes, and Grayson Waller was just having none of it. I thought he carried himself very well. He's like, no, fuck you. I thought it was great. So he was the perfect guy to do that. Watching LA Knight sitting there going like, what the fuck's going on, was pretty hilarious. But Waller playing his role. Waller is a great talker. I think he's going to be a big star. So I did see that. I thought it was hilarious. It's good to see the Juliet Ip in here. Sorry I'm late. We'll forgive you this time, but it's the last warning, Juliet. I ain't going to tell you again. Zane G in the house as well. Hope all is well with you, my friend. Welcome. Good to see Michael Cuomo as well. OG channel member. Right on. Jay Lambo. Anybody else that's been showing up since I've been talking? Christian Mohammed. Ryan. Daniel. Right on. Good to see everybody. Happy Saturday to one and all. Let's move on to our next. Oh, let me answer this text message first. Cool. Let's talk about the next big story. Okada leaving New Japan. This is huge. I wouldn't say it's necessarily startling because we knew that Okada could potentially leave. This has kind of been on the radar for a couple of months, that Okada could potentially be departing. And we've already here on the podcast speculated as to where we might want to see him go, AEW or WWE. And like I said before, with Will Ospreay, as a fan, I just feel like AEW would be the more fun place for him. But Okada, I think Rainmaker and WWE would be sweet. So here is the statement from New Japan that was, I guess, posted yesterday. And it reads, and I quote, Kazuchika Okada will be leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling after the conclusion of his contract on January 31st, 2024. We apologize to fans for the abrupt nature of this announcement, but join them in wishing Okada the very best in his future. As the New Beginning series begins this weekend, Okada will appear on February dates 11th in Osaka and the 23rd and 24th in Sapporo. Changes will be made to forthcoming cards with an announcement to follow. We appreciate your understanding and continued support. And Okada released a statement as well, saying, I have nothing but gratitude for having been a part of New Japan since 2007, and for New Japan bringing me from a 19-year-old kid off the plane in Mexico to the Rainmaker I am today. Thank you to the best of companies in New Japan, to the best of opponents that I have been able to face, and to the best of fans that have cheered and booed me over the years. I promise to make it rain in every match I have left, so keep watching. All right, so that is it. That is just pretty big. They've been able to, I kind of thought he would maybe stick around after the Tanahashi announcement being named the New Japan president. I thought maybe, first order of business would be to lock up his rival to another long-term deal. But if you're in Okada's shoes, what is he now? 36, 37 years old? This is usually around the time in your career that you want to cash in on that big money contract, or perhaps fulfill some personal career goals that you have not yet fulfilled. And with Okada in New Japan, I think for the last 5 years, we've been saying this. What is there left to do? Didn't he have one title reign that was like 700 or 800 days? I mean, that guy has been ridiculously dominant. Like the level of John Cena dominance that we saw, I mean, it was that over there. And there's really nothing left for him to accomplish, especially now. I really hate this for New Japan because they've already lost a lot, and losing Okada, especially if he goes to WWE. If he went to AEW, you could probably still have an Okada presence in New Japan. But if Okada goes all the way to WWE, that's a massive loss for them. And it's kind of, depleting their roster a little bit. Or it's already depleted the roster, but this is like a big loss. So that's a shame for them. I feel horrible, but I'm also super excited as a fan to see this guy come to the States, because I don't know why he would leave New Japan if that wasn't going to be the plan. Some people have even had TNA on his radar. So there's no, I don't think, definitive front runner to land the services of Okada, but Triple H and Tony Khan are both going to bid high for him. Both companies have interest for him or in him. And Okada already has the relationship, the pre-existing relationship with AEW. He's worked some matches there. He already knows Tony Khan. He knows the players there. He's been in the door. You would think they would have a leg up on the negotiations, knowing that he's already been there, knows what it's like, knows what to expect, where WWE might still be considered the unknown. Although he does have friends over there like Nakamura, who has been saying some weird shit in his promos dating all the way back to last year that some fans thought might be referencing Okada. So when you look at it, I'm personally of the hope that he goes to WWE. I just think that would be a lot of fun. I think Triple H booking Kazuchika Okada would be a lot more promising and successful than anything Vince McMahon would have done. I wouldn't have wanted Okada to come within a zip code of WWE or even a state with Vince there. But with Triple H in charge, I think it's a completely different story, and I think Okada would be presented the way he should be, and like the star and the international star that he already is. Think about Okada and Randy Orton or something at WrestleMania, how great that would be. And if they were able to sign him, if they did have him come in to work a match on a 2-night WrestleMania, I say sure. There's a lot of potential opponents right there. AJ Styles would be a big one. Especially with AJ Styles back on TV now, and AJ in the best shape he's ever been, the shape of his life right now, and him working with Okada would be also pretty fun because he wouldn't necessarily need to have that much of a story. He could just come in as an attraction match. Look who we have, and he's facing AJ, just like Cody faced Seth a couple of years ago. Kind of have Okada come in the same way. I think a big Rainmaker entrance with some of the things they could do, and the presentation of Okada could be a lot of fun. Plus, the dude is just bonkers in the ring. And would be a great addition. I mean, if WWE isn't already strong enough as it is, you add a legend like that to your already stacked fucking roster of legends, they're going to be doing all right. Look on the other side of that coin. I would prefer to see Okada in WWE, yes, but if he went to AEW, that wouldn't be all bad either. If he went to AEW, I would still be fine with that and still very much enjoy what he did over there. And when you look at AEW right now in WWE, there's some big free agents out there right now. Okada and Mercedes are the big ones. And if Tony Khan was to land, let's say, both of those, I think it's still the belief that Mercedes is going to go to AEW, although with each day that passes and we don't know, makes me think that she's turning up in this Royal Rumble on Saturday. So I'm not completely sold on Mercedes being in AEW until I see her there. It's like aliens, I'll believe it when I see it. So she has to be there first, and the Rumble is coming up. I still feel like AEW is the most likely, but shit, you're just not going to know until you see her there. So if Tony Khan was able to sign Mercedes and is able to win the bidding war for Okada, that would be him getting Ospreay and Mercedes and Okada, all three WWE had interest in and made offers to, and he was able to take them. That's a really good and healthy for wrestling competition. So, on one hand, the selfish fan in me wants to see Okada in WWE because I think that would be awesome. But, for the sake of wrestling competition and free agents, really, get to be bid for like the prettiest girl at the dance, I think it would be good for competition in general for Okada to go there, especially with AEW, some of the things that's happened to them in the past year. They were so hot, then they kind of cooled off a little bit, and the perceived backstage issues, all that going on, and they're still able to land these massive free agents. They're still able to land stars that say, I'd rather work for you than WWE, especially when you look at WWE and see how well they're performing right now. To still choose to go somewhere else is great for pro wrestling. So I'm fine with wherever Okada goes. You go wherever you want. I'm going to support you either way. As a fan, I think I'd prefer WWE because I think that would be more fun. We've already seen him in AEW a few times. He's worked Forbidden Door, worked Danielson, had a random tag team match there on TV one time. So we know what Okada in AEW looks like. We don't know what he looks like in WWE, and I think that's more intriguing to me as a fan. So I'm hoping for WWE, but at the end of the day, it's exciting. It's exciting because, he's leaving, and that's another big star that's going to be in a brand new environment soon. And like I've mentioned 100 times in the last couple of years, this feeling of watching people jump ship and defect and go to other companies, we haven't seen this level of excitement around that since WCW was around, and that's really freaking awesome. So best of luck to Okada in wherever he lands in his future. Hell of a career there in New Japan, one he can be very, very proud of. And now he has a chance in the last, 5 to 10 years of his career, however long he wants to wrestle, to write a whole new chapter, maybe even a closing chapter. And when it comes to exposure and really cementing your legacy in wrestling, what other better place to do that than under the biggest umbrella there is in WWE? Cap it off with a nice Hall of Fame induction right at the end, might be nice. So we'll see what happens. Best of luck to Okada. We also have a Camille update. We have been expecting that Camille was going to be signing with WWE and reporting to NXT soon. That's where I expected her to go when she left the NWA, but apparently she's not quite signed anywhere yet. And FightFul Select had an update on this today, about 2 hours ago, where they said, and I quote, FightFul was able to confirm reports from PWInsider and House of Wrestling that WWE had interest in the former NWA champion. Specifically, we're told that overtures were made over the past couple of weeks to bring Camille to the company. However, that didn't prevent her from being backstage at Dynamite on January 17th. So I did not know she was backstage on Wednesday. FightFul confirmed that even though she was originally just around visiting friends and she's local to the area. However, she did speak with several people of influence at the show. It's been noted that as of the 19th, yesterday, she has not signed with anyone. Camille had a 6-month option with NWA that would have extended through the first half of the year. However, she passed on that option. So Camille is still not signed yet. So maybe she was waiting. She knew Dynamite was coming to her area. I'll show up there. I'll sniff around, see what kind of interest I can get and maybe gauge that before I full-blown sign with WWE. I know I got a job there with them. I can go to NXT if I want, but maybe I should just peek my head in AEW. Hey, anybody want this? No? Okay. I'm going to go. I'm going to go to WWE then. Maybe that's what she was doing. I have no idea. Either way, she's going to get signed to one of the big companies. That's for sure. And I think her going to WWE also would be kind of fun if she was in NXT, having another, big, strong chick there with Jade Cargill and Sol Ruka. And man, they got some athletes in that company, I'm telling you. So again, with much like Okada, I feel like I'd prefer Camille in WWE because I do think that even though she's a good wrestler, good size and presence, she looks like a star. I think, the NXT system would be good for her the same way it's good for Jade Cargill. So we'll keep our eye on Camille. Also want to wish Keith Lee the best. Something I feel kind of weird talking about because it was reported, I think it was House of Wrestling that had gotten their hands on, a private Facebook post where Keith Lee revealed that he's got to get double surgeries. So he's going to be out of action for a while. Double surgery coming up for him. Apparently, this wasn't supposed to be shared, and it was, but the word did get out that Keith Lee is going to be out for a while with 2 upcoming surgeries. Hopefully he can heal up and come back at some point and resume what he's doing and finally get that match with Swerve. It would be great if, when he came back, Swerve was already AEW champion and then boom, that's where you do it. Keith Lee versus Swerve for the title. Just do it on TV or a big Dynamite or one of those Fighter Fest type of Dynamites that they do. Those signature shows or whatever in between the pay-per-views. Do it there, main event, when Keith Lee is healthy. But in the meantime, we wish him best. Keith Lee is exactly what's right about pro wrestling. He's just a terrific human and wish him the best and hate that his career kind of went the direction that it did, especially with how strong and amazing the potential you saw with him in NXT and what he could do on the main roster. And he was vinced. He was completely fucking vinced, and it sucks. And then going to AEW and, some weird start and stops there, a couple of injuries, some health problems, that type of thing for Keith Lee. He doesn't deserve it. He's a great talent, and hopefully he's able to get back in the ring and still have, a couple of years left in the ring. That would be terrific, at least from a fan standpoint. But first and foremost is his health, and hopefully he gets well soon. Best of luck to Keith Lee. Let me see here. Back to the chat. Oh, good. Max, you're back. I'm glad you're unblocked or unsilenced or whatever. Camille is supporting Mariah May. How great has she been? I wouldn't say that she's like stealing the spotlight from Toni Storm, but she is really a fun part of that whole act. Let me respond to this text 1 second. I'm so sorry. Sorry about that. That's the problem with going live. Sometimes work texts you with a question, and they're like, well, I can't ignore those fuckers. But I'm also talking to you guys. Thank you for your patience. Let me see. What do you guys want to talk about first? There's a couple. I want to talk about Dynamite. I'm going to talk about Dynamite first. We'll finish up with SmackDown in a minute since we did a lot of WWE chatter already. But I want to talk a little bit about this past week's Dynamite. We're not going to run through the whole show. I just want to talk about a couple of key points, just like I'm going to do for SmackDown. I don't want to talk about the whole show, but just some of the main points. And this week's Dynamite was great because it was headlined by the great championship main event between Hook and Samoa Joe. And this match was set up so well on TV. Even that promo that Hook cut like in Brooklyn outside in the rain while he's eating pizza. How fucking great is that? Like, that was such a unique way to shoot that. I liked it. It's a perfect frame for Hook's character. I liked it a lot better than some of the shit WWE's been trying lately with the nightclub thing with Caden and the other one, and Tyler Bate and Butch having a coffee date. Like, that was all kind of weird looking, but the Hook promo was very, very good. So I was looking forward to the match a lot. I thought the match was really, really fun because I thought kind of going into it, AEW had a chance to make Hook versus Samoa Joe their 1-2-3 Kid versus Bret Hart. You know, where you've got a challenger that's going to put up a fight and fight his ass off, but, you know, really at the end of the day is going to be overmatched, and he's just going out there to try to score the upset of the century type of thing. Plus, there's a little history with Hook and Samoa Joe. Joe and Taz go way back. Joe knew Hook when he was just a little bitty Hook, and now he has to be in the ring with him, beating the shit out of him, and it really did look like that because it looked like a big, giant man beating up a boy. I mean, Hook looks like my busboy AJ. He looks exactly like him, except minus the crazy hair. So this is a kid, you know, like in his early 20s, getting beat up by what was that monster that Joe just played in that movie? Whatever his name is. It just looked like an absolute murdering, but that's kind of what you liked about it. I thought it was a really fun match. I thought it was a fun matchup, and I was looking forward to see how Hook did in this because he was really going to have to move a lot. He didn't want to get caught too much, but he was going to have to, you know, have some offense, and how he would be able to fight somebody as tough and menacing as Joe, and how he would stand up to that was what I was most interested in. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, Hook was diving around the ring. He was hitting suplexes, Tazplexes on Samoa Joe. He was really giving it his all out there. But, you know, at the end, it was Joe just too much power. And he was really just manhandling Hook a lot. Maybe in what is my spot of the year so far is when he was on the outside of the ring and he hit Hook with the gnarliest Uranagi I've ever seen, right on the edge of the table. And Hook just bounced right off of it. The table still collapsed, which means they kind of gimmicked the table. But I think maybe Joe meant to hit Hook a little bit more center on the table so it collapsed. But instead he hit right, like basically the ring apron of the table is where Hook takes this back bump, and then the table crumbles, and then Joe just he just does his strut. He walks all the way around the ring, comes around to the other side, picks Hook up again, and power bombs his ass on the ring apron. So Hook was just taking an ass kicking. In the end, they're back in the ring. Hook has another little flurry of offense there, but Joe is able to neutralize him. Boom, Hook's on the choke there, and eventually Hook succumbs and Joe chokes out Hook and retains the championship in a really, really fun title main event. That it was just a matchup that's different, and it was set up really well. Even some of AEW's biggest critics, like Eric Bischoff, was praising the match. A lot of people were praising the match. I saw a lot of social media polls. Which match did you like better, Seth or Jinder, or Hook or Samoa Joe? And Hook and Samoa Joe won by a landslide. It was a fun match. It was a different match. I liked the way it was built. I liked the way it was presented. And I liked the way it was executed. It was absolutely fucking perfect. Excellent job, AEW, Hook, and Samoa Joe. After the match, Hook is climbing to his feet and he goes, "What, that's all you got?" So Samoa Joe's like, all right. He gets back in the ring and hits Hook with a muscle buster. So after Hook just took the ass kicking of his life, then got choked out. Now he gets hit with a muscle buster and Joe tries to leave again. And Hook again gets to his feet and tells him to come back. So Joe's like, all right, but before he can get in the ring and finish off Hook, Hangman Page's music hits. He had an interview earlier on in the night with Renee. I'm liking his new look, wearing all black, big mustache now going on, and he's definitely changed and has an attitude to him. He came out there to make the save. Joe retreats, and you even had Swerve Strickland out there watching from the crowd. So it looks like Swerve and Hangman are going to be Samoa Joe's direct number one challengers right now. And Samoa Joe has been doing great numbers. I don't know if he's supposed to be a transitional champion or what, but I am in no hurry to get the title off of Samoa Joe. I think he is a great guy to hold the title right now. I'm so glad that he's kind of, I don't want to say getting his flowers. I hate that phrase because he's near the end of his career, but I'm glad he's getting this opportunity to be a world champion. Yes, he was NXT champion a couple of times, but way back in, I think it was 2017 at Great Balls of Fire, I took that logo and I use it for Greg Balls of Fire now in our midweek podcast when necessary. But that night, I remember doing my predictions video for Great Balls of Fire, and I predicted Samoa Joe to beat Brock Lesnar. I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's put the belt on Samoa Joe. He'd be a great champion. They never did it. He never got near the title again. So I'm glad that he's able to have this role because he's a great ass-kicking heel champion. He's healthy right now, which is also a big plus. And we should have seen this coming as soon as he forfeited that Ring of Honor title. You know, it felt like the writing was on the wall there. And I think this was a really excellent land on your feet moment for AEW. If they did wind up taking the belt off of MJF, maybe early so he could finish resting up his injuries or whatever. The Adam Cole injury fucked up their storyline there. It resulted in Samoa Joe being the AEW champion. And I think Samoa Joe was going to succeed maybe where CM Punk did not as AEW champion. And he might succeed where I was hoping Bryan Danielson would succeed, because I thought they would have put the title on Danielson a year ago and they didn't. So now that Joe is the champion, and he's been doing numbers. AEW pulled in a pretty good number this week. They were the number one show on cable. Tony Khan has been touting a lot of the numbers, and Warner Brothers Discovery has also released statements recently noting their happiness with the AEW content. And it really does feel like the groundwork is being laid, and we're about to be on the cusp of a major announcement here for a TV rights deal or a streaming deal or both for AEW, and that's good news. And now when you have a really, really strong champion, I say ride it as long as you can. And Joe is doing great work right now. He's one of my favorite aspects of AEW television right now, and I think getting into this post-CM Punk type of era in the company, 2024 kind of being this new beginning. Maybe even they can convince Tony Khan to keep his fucking mouth shut for 6 months to a year, just to not give anybody else any ammunition. Just put your head down, do your work, show the fans what you do best. You know, I think this is their year to try to do that. And if they can, you know, kind of continue strong like that, and Tony Khan can just somehow resist the urge to go on tweeting rampages every now and then, they could have a great 2024, and they have a strong as fuck champion right now, and I'm loving everything Samoa Joe is doing. So that Hook and Samoa Joe match was a lot of fun. It was good to see Hook get that match. You know, it's just like Sean Waltman, just like 1, 2, 3 Kid got versus Brett. Nobody was going into that thinking he was going to win, but people look back on that as one of the greatest Raw matches in history. I don't know if we're going to look back at Hook and Joe as the greatest Dynamite match in history, because we've had a lot of great Dynamite matches, but I definitely think it's going to be remembered. I'm going to remember it. That's for damn sure. So that was great on Dynamite. Also, these new young bucks, these two douchebags and their mustaches. Holy shit. They have a sit-down interview there with Renee Young, and it sounds like they're really leaning into this EVP type of stuff. And they even kind of acknowledge the rumors. They're directly referencing CM Punk without really saying his name. And they're sitting there with Renee in those fucking outfits. Nick is great. Matt is a little maybe over animated sometimes, but Nick, just the way he sits there with that blank kind of stare, he's a lot more subtle in his tone and the way he talks. And I like Nick more in this role than I like Matt. But Matt even felt like he was, is it just me, or was he trying to do like a Vince McMahon impression? That voice that Vince has, you know, the way he was talking. They're both sporting those idiotic mustaches. Nick's wearing like all white with no shirt under it. They look like assholes. And I love it, because if that's what they're trying to do, they are nailing that look. And they both told Renee to call them by their God-given names, which is Nicholas and Matthew Jackson. They said, we're EVPs around here and it's time to take things a little bit more seriously. And they said, oh, by the way, Renee, you got your paycheck this week? You're welcome. So they kind of acknowledged that, you know, maybe bringing in some, they didn't really say this directly, but bringing in WWE guys was a mistake. And maybe that's why they're targeting Sting. Bringing in these, you know, big stars from other companies has not really helped AEW. And maybe Sting is one of the last ones there and they want to eliminate him or something. Maybe that's going to tie into the storyline here with Sting and Darby Allin. And it was about a 10-minute interview of them just really trying to get these new personas over. So they're going to basically be leaning in to the shit and the hate and everything that they get online. Like I said, right now, I'm a little bit on the fence. There's part of me that thinks this could be hugely entertaining and pretty successful. And another part of me is like, well, also knowing these guys, there's a chance some of the stuff isn't going to land as it's intended. So I'll wait and see like how it goes. So far, like I said, I'm just kind of like, I like Nick. I don't like Matt so much. You know, in terms of their demeanor so far, but I can see how perhaps leaning into the online heat they already have, you know, if their goal is, you know, to eventually one day receive Dominic Mysterio level boos, you know, they might be on the right track there, especially the more obnoxious and more douchey they are, and perhaps if they win the tag team titles, because there was the thing, I think what Darby or Sting said, they want to retire as tag team champions, or maybe they want to go out as tag team champions. Maybe that's what they're doing here. Maybe it's going to be the Young Bucks. I mean, shit, Revolution's coming up soon, so they're going to have to do a lot of things pretty quickly here. But if that's the plan, you would think maybe the Bucks are going to win the tag team titles and then drop them to Darby and Sting at the pay-per-view. But then Darby would have to immediately forfeit the titles anyway if Sting is retiring, or perhaps have another partner, but he might not want to do that. It might want to be just a moment for Sting to retire as a champion. Then the championship belts are up for grabs again, and then maybe the Bucks win them back. But then you'd have to take them from Ricky Starks and Big Bill, who I think are both doing good work right now. So, you know how people say, you know, Rock and Roman Reigns doesn't need the title? I feel the same way about Darby and Sting. Like, if they're going to have their last match together as a tag team, I don't think they necessarily need to win the tag team championships together, unless that's a personal thing for Darby. To me, it wouldn't matter to Sting, but maybe it actually would matter to Darby. But Darby, I mean, how long of a career is this guy going to have? He damn near broke his neck last week on Dynamite. He's climbing Mount Everest in a couple of months, which he might even not come back from. So these would all be great little accolades and things to remember between Darby and Sting and their relationship if Darby was going to be in the ring for 20 more years. But I'm not sure if this guy's going to be in the ring for 20 more months at the rate he's going. So if Darby and Sting were to win the tag team titles at Revolution, Sting retires, Darby has got and received probably one of the best presents and dreams that a fan could ever ask for, being able to be tag team champions with Sting, that being the last thing he did. You know, that'd be like Edge and Hogan winning the title and Hogan retiring that night. That would be fucking crazy. So maybe they're setting this thing up to be for the championship. I personally don't think it needs to be, but it would create the moment there in North Carolina. I think that would be pretty special. So if the Bucks are really trying to get themselves over as douchebags, really get the crowd hating them, and they go into the Carolinas, these two boys from Southern California, you know, and they go into the Carolinas with that attitude, those douchebag fucking attitudes they have, and then Sting is coming out in fucking Greensboro. Oh my God. I mean, it's going to be an extremely fun fan environment. And maybe that's what they're trying to set up here too. Maybe a Hogan and Rock type of thing where the fans are going to play a big role in this match. And, if you get the icon, the legend Sting, that's had a hell of a lot of great moments in that building, in that state, in that part of the country, going up against two of the most hated villains in wrestling at the current time, and it's a retirement match, that could be a recipe for a pretty fucking hot crowd right there. So we will see, but it is looking like Bucks against Darby and Sting is what they're setting up for at Revolution. How about the opener? I want to mention that. Christian defeating Dustin Rhodes in a TNT title match. What I liked about this is a couple of close-ass near falls by both guys. Dustin hit a crossroads on Christian for a very close near fall. And then later in the ring, this is after, by the way, he hits a crossroads on Christian. He kicks out. Then he's on the outside of the ring. He fights off Luchasaurus. And he hits Nick Wayne, and Lucha both come out. He fights off Lucha. He grabs Nick Wayne and hits Nick Wayne with a destroyer on the floor that looked amazing because Nick Wayne is 11 fucking years old and he can sell his balls off for shit like this. And it just looked amazing. And then Dustin gets back in the ring and gets attacked by Christian, hit with the kill switch. You think the match is over, and Dustin kicks out. Kicks out of the kill switch. Unbelievable. Fans loved it. I popped. Christian got up, hit him with a second kill switch, which was not kicked out of, and pinned Dustin for the win. Way more fun match than it needed to be. Maybe even slightly longer than it needed to be, but it was pretty awesome because these two guys have been around forever. Weren't these guys like on opposite sides? Hasn't there been like an un-American versus Booker T and Goldust match in WWE? These guys definitely worked in WWE probably about 20 to 21 years ago in 2002, 2003, 2004, probably somewhere in that little pocket. There's probably some Christian and Dustin Rhodes matches that exist, probably even on pay-per-view. Let me know if you have some examples. So that was pretty awesome. And the final thing I want to mention about Dynamite, I should mention Deonna Purrazzo making her in-ring debut, getting the win right over Anna Jay. And on Wednesday, that also marked, unfortunately, the 1-year anniversary of the tragic loss of Jay Brisco in that horrific car accident that he was in that took his life and injured his daughters. And Wednesday was the 1-year anniversary of that, so they did a nice little tribute out on the stage. Let me wait for this ambulance to pass. Oh, maybe it's going the other way. All right, we're safe. So they did a nice little tribute for Jay Brisco on the stage. Mark Briscoe came out, and he said, 1 year ago, my brother died. He crossed over into the next dimension. And he goes, my nieces were in the car with him, and they told my oldest niece that she'd never walk again. However, and like as soon as he said however, it's just like it just hits you with the feels, and then out walks what I believe are his 3 kids, right? The brother and the 2 daughters. And they come out and share a moment on the stage there, kind of a group hug. They cut to the front row around ringside where more family members appeared. Papa Briscoe was there, and I think some more, some cousins and maybe some daughters of Mark. And that was rough, man. That was really rough just to see that. I mean, it was a great moment, especially for the daughter, who was involved in that accident and was told she would never walk. And she seemed to be walking pretty good, a limp, but didn't need too much assistance, didn't have crutches or anything like that. So the fact that she's up walking around and hopefully will be able to live a normal life, I think is a small miracle, in the middle of this, colossal tragedy. The fact that at least, his kids are going to, be able to live normal lives, especially 2 of them being involved in that. So that was just, it was really a nice moment, but also a reminder of, the tragedy that we all went through just a year ago. And I don't know the daughter's name, but props to her. I mean, that accident was only a year ago. And she's already up walking around, making public appearances and stuff when she was told she would never walk again. Making it to where she is only a year later is incredible and very, very comforting to know that. And of course, all the best to the Pugh family. I was thinking about them a lot on Wednesday because it was a rough year, man. I mean, Briscoe, and even Bray Wyatt, those were 2 really and Terry Funk. Terry Funk wasn't as shocking, but Brisco and Wyatt were. They were both completely boom out of nowhere. We all knew that Bray Wyatt had some health problems, but I don't think anybody really felt that it was life-threatening, and Brody Lee was kind of the same. Those are some, examples in the last couple of years of just unfair deaths that had nothing to do with bad wrestler behavior or drug overdoses or any other stupid tragedy, that's taken the life of so many wrestlers in the past. These are just, illnesses or freak accidents, and it just sucks. So 1 year it's been since the loss of Jay Brisco, and I don't think any of us are really quite over that yet. So good to see that. All in all, really fun episode of Dynamite, even though I think on paper I was looking at the card and I was very interested in the main event, but I still thought like the rest of the card was a little weak. I didn't even really mention the rest of the matches here. It does look like they're setting up for a match between Roderick Strong and Orange Cassidy at Revolution for the international title, which I like because that's a lot of build you get there. And I think Orange Cassidy is going to be dropping that thing as the Undisputed Kingdom tries to start doing their belt collecting on their path to domination. Last night on Rampage, we saw a rematch between Darby Allin and Jeff Hardy. Darby Allin got the win over Jeff with a roll-up. Tried to give him a little show of respect at the end, and Jeff had none of it and was like, nope, and just walked away. So that's a really interesting match, those two, because they are, very much alike. I see a lot of the chances and the crazy shit Darby does right now is how I used to feel about Jeff Hardy 25 years ago. I was one of the first people to see him doing some of that shit in the Carolinas there. I was in the building the night him and Matt won their first ever championships with Doc Hendricks in their corner, or Michael Hayes. And, Hardy used to be crazy. All the things he used to do in those TLC matches, I've seen those in person too. And I have a lot of the same feelings about Darby, these risks that they take. And, and then you get a lot of people, they're going to analyze Darby's bump on YouTube and all this. Just accept the fact that Darby's nuts just the way Jeff Hardy was nuts. If Stevie Richards and all these other fucks had YouTube channels back in 1999 or 2000, they would be picking apart all these Jeff Hardy bumps too. It's just what Darby does. Is it recommended to do a triple Lindy neck first into a bottom rope? No, but Darby's going to do it. So the sooner you accept that, the better off you'll be. Chris Jericho, who not only was on Dynamite in an interview, was also on Rampage defeating Matt Sydal. This match was set up on Dynamite. So this belief that AEW should maybe just take Jericho off TV for a while clearly isn't happening, and he's still there doing a whole heck of a lot of nothing. And I like Jericho, as a wrestler. He's been one of my favorite careers, but, I'm not really seeing what he's offering anymore in AEW. There was a time, the first couple of years there, I thought he was a good first world champion to have, and they could use his name to help, build a lot of other stars. I appreciated the fact that he worked and put over guys like Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin and others, but then there's other times where, Action Andretti beat Jericho. What has it really done for him? There might be even a couple of other examples of, things that he's done with other talents that didn't really have the desired effect in terms of where they went after that. And now I feel like Jericho's doing a lot of water treading, and his name is in the news for all the wrong reasons. If I'm Tony Khan, I'm just not putting him on TV. But then again, I think Jericho and Tony Khan have a special relationship that goes all the way back to the formation of AEW and how Jericho was a really, really big part of that. I remember even at the Jericho cruise that I went on a few years ago, Cody on the very last night wrestled a match, and I even think I have a video of this on one of my channels. And he kind of addressed the crowd after, and he thanked a lot of people and thanked Tony Khan and a lot of people that helped get AEW going, but really said, he goes, without Chris Jericho, AEW even, being on TV might not have been possible. He had a huge, huge effect on this company and its beginning. And I feel like he's always been a really big part of that. And, Tony Khan isn't going to maybe treat him the same way he treats anybody else. If this was, I don't know, insert any name. If this was Trent Beretta, maybe not even that, maybe somebody that hasn't been around from the beginning, just any old AEW star, and you get some of these similar allegations, I think you're going to want to maybe take that person off of TV. for a little while until things settle or an investigation or whatever. That doesn't seem to be happening with Jericho, but Tony Khan and Jericho, maybe Jericho's just very confident that there's no wrongdoing or whatnot. I don't know, but Jericho's still around and he beat Matt Sydal last night. Also, we had Chris Statlander defeating Queen Aminata in a pretty fun match. Did you see Queen Aminata's hip attack boot combo to Statlander in the corner? Holy shit. It's we've seen some pretty gnarly hip attacks from Tony Storm, right? Nothing compares to this. Just go find the match on YouTube. Chris Statlander, Queen Aminata, last night Rampage. Stats in the corner. And I swear, Queen comes in 250,000 miles an hour, ass first, into Statlander's face. And it looked like Statlander's head came off. Like Petey the bird in Dumb and Dumber. Her head fell off. Like, was almost blasted right off of her shoulders. It was crazy. And then Aminata goes back and hits the ropes and comes back in with an immediate boot to the face that looked equally sick. So that was one of the best corner attacks I've ever seen. Statlander somehow managed to win this match. In the back, they're doing the thing with her and Stokely. So in the back after the match, she's talking with Stokely and Willow shows up and she's like, sorry, I missed the match, but somebody canceled my trip, insinuating that it was Stokely. And I guess he's trying to win. There's something going on between him and Statlander. I'm not quite sure what they're doing, but it's hilariously entertaining. And I really, really like Little Stoke. That's pretty much all I have to say about AEW. Last night's SmackDown was a decent enough show. It was primarily centered around the contract signing for the Royal Rumble. They still haven't gotten this thing signed yet. Of course, Roman has been booked to defend his title in a fatal four-way against Orton, AJ, and LA Knight. And the contract signing is going to open up the show, but before they do, they are backstage in the garage area where Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman arrive. They come through metal detectors. They say hello to Solo Sikoa and Jimmy. And Roman says that he's there because he told you guys to fix things, and things aren't fixed, so he's going to fix them himself. And then Solo vows, I promise I will fix things or whatever. So then we're back in the ring. The contract signing is taking place. Orton, AJ, and LA Knight all sign the contract, and then Paul Heyman comes out to the stage and says, hey, look, we just got here. We haven't even had time to submit this contract to an attorney, much less sign it. So we're not going to be signing this contract tonight. And again, another example of why I love Nick Aldis in this role. He's like, fuck you. He didn't say this, but it was kind of like his attitude. And he's like, you're not going to sign it tonight? Okay, well, I'll tell you what. If you don't sign the contract tonight, then I'm just going to make this match a triple threat match for the vacant WWE title. It is so refreshing to have a general manager that just isn't putting up with this nonsense and this twisting by Paul Heyman. He's not scared or intimidated whatsoever by Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, the bloodline. He's the GM. He's got a job to do. And he's basically like, you're not going to throw your weight around. This match is happening or you're forfeiting the title. Those are your choices. And so Heyman, kind of warns him a little bit. And Aldis is basically just like, fuck off. Go tell your boys, got till the end of the night to sign the contract, or this thing is now a triple threat and he's no longer champion. See ya, which I really liked. Love that. So AJ and LA Knight wind up fighting with each other. Randy Orton gets in Paul Heyman's face. He's got a match with Solo Sikoa later on in the main event, and he tells Heyman that he's going to beat Solo in the main event. And we had, I think it was right after that, we had AJ Styles versus LA Knight. So they faced off one-on-one. This match did not see a finish because Jimmy Uso comes out down the aisleway, and then Solo Sikoa comes through the crowd and attacks LA Knight, over the barricade, and they start brawling, and Solo hits AJ Styles with a Samoan spike. And I think this thing was just a no contest or a double DQ or whatever. And then in the main event, Randy Orton did beat Solo Sikoa. Jimmy Uso, of course, came out, but he was attacked in the aisleway by LA Knight and AJ Styles. And then back in the ring, Solo is kind of distracted by what's going on. Randy hits an RKO for the win, beats Solo Sikoa, and then winds up hitting AJ Styles and LA Knight with RKOs to finish them off. And then that's when Roman Reigns shows up, and he comes in Superman punch to Randy Orton. Nick Aldis is at ringside. He calls for the contract. He grabs it. He signs his name. He throws the contract back at Nick Aldis' feet, and then he gets in position to hit Randy Orton with a spear, and he comes in, and of course Randy counters with an RKO out of nowhere, puts Roman Reigns down to close the show. And that was a pretty good way, I guess, to set up the Fatal 4-Way. I'm not expecting Roman Reigns to drop his title here in any way, shape, or form. I think Roman is going to pin LA Knight or AJ Styles, and Orton is going to avoid getting pinned in this. And we'll see what all three men do, heading into WrestleMania. But I think Randy Orton and AJ Styles would both be excellent candidates to face Okada at WrestleMania if he is in fact coming in. So hopefully one of those two can go on and work with somebody pretty awesome, and LA Knight can maybe even work with Logan Paul at WrestleMania. We will see. And I'm sure all of them, or at least a couple of them, might be in that Elimination Chamber match in Perth as well. So that shouldn't be the end of their title aspirations at the Royal Rumble, but I think Roman Reigns has to have one more successful title defense. And how crazy would it be if he did some stacking again? Maybe he could stack AJ and LA Knight, or he could stack all three of them, but I think that might be a little bit much if he stacked them all. Kevin Owens and Logan Paul, of course, have a showdown at the Royal Rumble. Logan Paul was a guest on the KO show last night. And, of course, Logan Paul's got to stick up his ass about Kevin Owens' cast, and he calls it a weapon. And Owens like, yeah, I know you think this is a weapon. I promise you, I'll tell you what, I promise at the Royal Rumble, I won't wear this cast. As a matter of fact, I'll take it off right now. That was the opening Logan Paul was looking for. He came in and blasted Kevin Owens with a punch, knocked him to the outside of the ring, and then grabbed his arm and then slammed it up against the ring post, further injuring KO's arm. And now KO's not going to be able to use the cast at the Rumble, I guess, and rendering his hand, useless, I guess. But if I'm Kevin Owens, I would just take out Logan Paul's hand. Didn't Seth Rollins do that at WrestleMania? Didn't he take out Logan's hand so the punch wouldn't be as effective? All Kevin Owens has to do is do the same thing. We will see. Probably the best part of SmackDown last night was WWE apologizing to us for them being idiots. How nice is that? The return of Pete Dunne. This was set up last week when Tyler Bate and Butch went on a Starbucks date or whatever and started talking, and Bate was kind of laying the groundwork for Butch to resurrect his identity or find his true self or whatever. Basically, this is going to be their reason for changing the stupid name of Butch, back to Pete Dunne, which is, what he got over as. So last night, Pretty Deadly is in the ring to take on Tyler Bate and Butch. Tyler Bate comes out first, and then Pete Dunne arrives. His music is back. His name is back. He's got the old furry thing, although he might have been wearing that on TV recently. It felt like Butch was pretty much Pete Dunne anyway. He had gone completely back to that look. The suspenders and the little hat was long gone, and he was pretty much Pete Dunne anyway, so this was a really nice way for them to finally bring back his original name. And, of course, he does all the Pete Dunne bruiserweight stuff, breaking Elton's fingers and hitting the bitter end for the win. And Pete Dunne is back, and it's great to see him back. He even posted a picture on social media of him and Walter from back in the day. So maybe a Pete Dunne and Gunther showdown is in our future, even though they're on separate brands. I would still like to see it happen. Also, last night on SmackDown, Caden in the other one beat Melba Toast in the other one. And after the match, the Kabukis, Kyrie and Asuka got in the ring and set up what I believe is going to be a championship match next week against Caden and Katana. So the titles are on the line, and we might actually see a title change. Although Caden and Katana had just won these titles, maybe they were transitional champions to get them over to the Kabukis to strengthen up Damage Control. Now everybody there is going to have a championship except for Bayley, and Dakota is kind of ineligible because she's not healthy right now. But with Bayley not having a championship, I think Bayley is the odds-on favorite to win the Royal Rumble right now. I think that would make the most sense for Bayley to win, and then she is going to have to decide who she's going to challenge. But I feel like with what's going on in Damage Control, it's going to be her challenging Io Sky. It would be weird if she, went over to Raw and challenged Rhea Ripley. I don't feel like that's going to be the case. I feel like Bayley will win the Rumble for the women, and she will challenge Io Sky, and then Becky Lynch will win the women's chamber. And we talked about that last week too, where I think prior to Seth's injury, I think the Rumble winners should be Punk and Bayley, Raw and SmackDown person, and the winners of the chamber should be Cody and Becky, Raw and Raw person, right? But Cody is going to be challenging for a SmackDown title, and Becky's challenging for Raw's. So hopefully in a perfect world, that's the way it all goes down. And Bayley winning the Rumble, I think right now she's pretty much the best opponent to do that, because they're already on TV on Raw. They're setting up Rhea and Becky at WrestleMania. So we know we're getting that. So you don't really need Becky to win the Rumble for that. She could do the chamber. And then Bayley is really the other best option in terms of who the champion is going to be. It's Io Sky right now. There's already that storyline that's been building in Damage Control of, Bayley being slowly kind of squeezed out, and her winning the Rumble just makes sense. I mean, they could invert it. They could have Becky win the Rumble, challenge Rhea, and then Bayley wins the chamber. They could do it that way, but Bayley winning the Rumble, I think, would be more fun. I don't think Bayley has won a Women's Royal Rumble before. I think she would be a fun winner that we haven't seen. And provided, barring any return from Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné, I can't see really too many other better options than that, considering who we're believing are going to be champions going into Mania. If it's going to be Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, then it's got to be Bayley or Becky. There's no one else. There's no one else to have win the Rumble. No one else would make sense based on those champions, unless Io Sky drops the title to somebody else and that sets something up. But it feels like Bayley is probably super likely. I think the Women's Royal Rumble is much more predictable than the men's, because I think the men's could kind of go either way there. So we will see. But that concludes my notes. Let's go over here, see what you guys say in the chat about all this stuff. I know I got some supers to answer, but let me go up here a little higher up there. Okay, just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Welcome everybody else. Nick Musser, good to see you, my friend. Let's see who's here. Spectre's in the house. Good to see you, man. How's it going? Just hopped in at the end of the Jericho segment. Heard the supposed victim denied anything happened. Is that true? What's your thoughts on Perry leaving AEW for New Japan? I gave my thoughts on that on last week. I like it. I like that they're sending him to New Japan. This makes more sense than him just coming back into AEW. Plus, he can kind of play into what happened without having to directly reference it. And I think this is much better than him being the devil or being one of the devil's henchmen. Here, he can maybe perfect this scapegoat character and, and turn it into something. I think the Bucks are doing largely the same thing right now, although they're doing theirs on TV. These changes with Perry and the Bucks and pretty much anybody that had a negative history with CM Punk in the company, we're seeing them change. Hangman Page is another one. If you really notice that. And Kenny Omega was, he was part of Brawl Out, but nobody really put him in the center of the fight. There was he did get bit, but I never really felt like there was super direct heat between Punk and Omega. I felt Punk hated the Bucks and Hangman Page way more. And when you see Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, and Jack Perry all having these new personas now, it makes you wonder if, we are going to see, the Elite come back together with maybe an extra member involved. Who knows? But I like that for Perry, just like I like what Hangman is doing, and I like so far, I think, what the Bucks are doing. So I like that. So far, so good. And I hope that he stays there a while before resurfacing in AEW. I would let him simmer there. Just see what can develop. That's what I would do. In terms of the details on the Jericho allegations, it's kind of messy. I don't really like talking about it. We talked about the initial stuff, what kind of brought everything up, but Jericho's name has been attached to just some negative stuff. So I don't know. I don't really know what's going on there. And luckily, I'm not a wrestling promoter, so I don't have to worry about it. Zach, what's up, bro? Good to see you, man. Thanks for that 5. Anyone think that Rock is the special enforcer for Roman and Cody this year? I think Roman versus Rock can be built for a year to 41. I mean, if that's what they were going to do, I would prefer that over anything else because it wouldn't screw up Cody's story. Whatever keeps Cody's story intact for me is I'm probably going to somewhat be okay with. And that scenario, I'd rather wait until WrestleMania 41 for The Rock and Roman than Roman and Cody. I think Cody's already waited a year, and they did they did The Rock and John Cena largely the same way. Rock came in 2011, and that whole build during WrestleMania, I almost thought took away from The Miz a little bit, who was the champion going into that. It felt like it was all about John Cena and The Rock, and they weren't even wrestling each other. And then The Rock slipped in the ring to cost John Cena the match after, and then that set up Rock and Roman for the following year. I don't mind that, but Rock being the special enforcer, Zach, that would actually work. Yeah, I was about to say, do we want Rock taking spotlight from Cody? But Rock being the special enforcer might actually work considering what the finish was last year, right? Roman has survived most of his title defenses in the last 3.5 years, largely due to the support of his family and the bloodline interfering. And if you get the ultimate enforcer there on the outside that's going to neutralize that, and you got The Rock hitting rock bottoms on Jimmy, on Solo, taking out anybody else he can, allowing Cody and Roman to be one-on-one, that could work. Fucking heel turn would also work. Holy shit, imagine The Rock as the special enforcer night 2. He stops Solo and Jimmy Uso from interfering, and then he gets in the ring. You think he's going to rock bottom Roman Reigns, and then he hits Cody instead, turns heel, joins the bloodline. Roman closes out night 2 as a heel with The Rock laughing and flipping everybody off. Holy shit, man. That would be a riot. That would be like a literal riot. But at first I wasn't sure about the idea of The Rock being a special enforcer, but now I'm not that against it because it would make sense, that Cody last year, many believe, would have been the WWE champion had it not been for Solo coming in. And since that really seems to be a theme for Roman Reigns, and it might even be a theme in the Fatal 4-Way because there's really no disqualification in that. So Solo and Jimmy are going to have a big part of that match and play a big role in Roman retaining. And maybe that's what Nick Aldis needs to say, fuck this. At WrestleMania, it's the ultimate enforcer. The Rock's going to be on the outside of the ring or whatever to neutralize everybody. And that could be a good way to set up WrestleMania 41. And then you get The Rock raising Cody's hand to the ultimate endorsement. We got Brock Lesnar endorsing Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam last year. They wouldn't have done all that just for Cody to flop again. He's getting the endorsement from Brock of all people. And the endorsement in the aisleway from John Cena. He's going to beat Cody Rhodes. The Rock is going to say, you're the man. I mean, everybody is like, Cody, this is yours now. I feel like there's no way he can't win the title at WrestleMania 40. So whatever has Cody closing out night 2 with that fucking championship, I'm fine with at this point, Zach. I just want it to happen. Nice, Dre. You're going to the Rumble, and you got him before Punk returned. Yeah, they're probably going up in price a little bit now, huh? It's also a contract year for Becky and Seth. I will lay out this prediction right now. Becky and Seth will not leave the company. I think they are WWE for life. That's where their bread's buttered, and there's no reason for either of them to leave ever. I can understand certain careers, certain talents want to go explore and do things other places. Maybe Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch want to do that too. We have no idea. Who knows what they want to do? Whatever they want to do, I'm fine with. But knowing the careers and the legacies that they're creating in WWE, they're going to be immortalized, until the end of time. So why rock the boat? Why leave and risk them being pissed at you or something? I just stay there and just let them, present me until the end of time as one of the best to ever do it. So I would stay there if I was both of them for legacy purposes. But who knows? Everybody has different life goals, By the way, we need to check out tonight on Collision. By the way, that goes live in about 20 minutes. I need to get out of here in a minute as well because I got to head to work. But on Collision, we have some interesting ones. We got another one of those Adam Copeland Open Challenges, so we'll see who comes out there. We have Buddy Matthews and Daniel Garcia. We have Thunder Rosa returning into action. We have Eddie Kingston and Ortiz taking on Danielson and Claudio. And we have Moxley and Shane Taylor. Oh, yeah, you think they might smack each other around a little bit? Yep. So, yeah, looks like a fun collision tonight on tap, which goes live in just a few minutes. So, right on. All right, well, I think I need to get out of here because I have been summoned to work a little bit early, so I'm going to hit the road, and it's rainy outside, so I'm going to get to moving there. Don't forget, join us tomorrow night. We are going to be watching the Royal Rumble 1990 as we eyeball NFL playoff football. We're also going to be back on Monday night as well for a full Raw review and to talk about whatever we learn regarding Seth Rollins, because he is slated to be on Raw to address his injury. We're also going to get a face-to-face in the ring between Cody and Punk as well, which should be fun. So that's also on tap. So we will be here Monday night to talk about all of that. I want to wish you guys a great rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much for being here. If you could, give that thumbs up a tap on your way out the door and make sure you are a subscriber up in here. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you tomorrow for a showdown between